Hello, welcome to a new short series on friendship, which we could entitle Love and Lovability, because really it's about the virtues that we need in order to be good friends. There is, much that has been written and said about friendship. Is one of these great topics that has been reflected on since, the beginning of history probably. But one person I do want to look at, because perhaps he's written more deeply about friendship than anybody else, Aristotle, the Greek philosopher of the 4th century BC, who's great at examining phenomena. In other words, just things that he saw before him, including human behavior. And one of the things he looked at over years and thought about deeply was friendship. Friendship just between people. And he deduced that there were 3 types of friendship, depending on their motivation, what gave rise to the friendship in the first place. The very first one is a friendship of pleasure. In other words, what gave rise to this friendship and keeps it together, importantly, is the pleasure that the friends gain from each other's company. That could be because the person's got a huge kind of cache of jokes, and he has you in stitches all day long. It's just one joke after another, and that's very pleasant. It's great. They're very witty. They're great fun, and there's great pleasure in being with them. There could be the sexual pleasure of a partnership, which is just based on purely the enjoyment of being with the opposite sex, and one way or another deriving pleasure from that. That's kind of pleasure love. The second one then is motivated but not by pleasure. There may be no pleasure involved at all, but utility. So friendship of utility. And here the benefit really is I'm somehow gaining myself from being with this person that I call my friend. Because, maybe they're very educational. They're teaching me loads of things. I'm like learning, a sport from them, and I couldn't get a better teacher. Or maybe wealth. They share their wealth with me, and so everywhere they go, everywhere these friends go, one pays for everything, and there's all the money, and great, that's very useful. Or it could be even kind of, you might say, social status. This person is famous, and so when I'm seen with this person, I am basking in the glow of their fame, and that's great for me. Maybe that's pleasure, I don't know. But they are kind of different things. The utility is normally something in the future, wealth or education. I'll get some pleasure in the future, but at the moment this is just utility. Now, Aristotle says these are both imperfect kind of friendships, because both will fail when the motivation fails. So the pleasure, if the poor guy runs out of jokes, he loses his friends. He's no fun anymore. And so, fun was what held the friendship together. When fun goes, the friendship dissolves. And the same with utility. If the wealthy man with his friend who is benefiting from all those free meals and everything, if he loses all his money, well then the motivation has disappeared, and it's pretty sure that he will lose those friends who are really, in a sense, just hangers-on. If the famous person falls into disgrace, a bit like Oscar Wilde made that discovery himself, which he writes about in The Ballad of Reading Gaol, well, the friends abandoned him at a very, very quick pace. They fled from him, in fact. Even Jesus, you would say, that there might be an element in the way people fled from Jesus. Their friendship with him might have been a utility. And so these two are not true friendship, he says. Rather, they are imperfect, because the perfect one will seek to love the friend just in themselves, separate from any good that I could derive from it, separate from any pleasure, separate from any utility. And this third kind of friendship he called love or friendship of virtue, where the object, the motivation for the friendship is the person themselves, not the good, not the pleasure, the utility that I can derive from them. And in saying that, he means also that what I'm looking for in this friendship is the good of that person, this best friend of mine or this spouse of mine. I'm not seeking my pleasure. I'm not seeking my utility. Now, they may be there. The person that we love may also at the same time be great fun, and they may be very wealthy, but they're not the motivation. So we love them and we seek their good. And if all their jokes dried up, or if they lost all their money, we would still equally be their friend. Think of the marriage ceremony, in fact, when two people exchange their marriage vows. And in one formula for the exchange of the marriage vows, the couple say they promise to love each other for better or for worse. In other words, for pleasure or without pleasure, for richer or for poorer. Again, with utility or without utility. So in fact, those two kinds of friendship get a mention, explicit mention in that marriage ceremony as being dismissed of as the motivation for their love. It's very nice. In other words, the couple are saying, no, we are marrying out of virtue love or virtue friendship. If pleasure dries up, it makes no difference. If utility dries up, it makes no difference. This is not what is motivating our friendship. It's a very beautiful thing, really, when you think of that as incorporated into the marriage ceremony. The couple that live together like that, whether the physical attraction may fade, the enjoyment may fade a little bit, they're not living with someone, as in cohabitation, they're living for someone. Very, very different thing. The good of the other is the object of their love. That's what they're seeking. I give thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask you for help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.